Hi. Over the years, now almost 20 years, we have been doing this business, and I have received so many questions from editors, from my followers, from my clients, and it has always been answering to one person or answering you guys through other people. So let's make a difference and let's start these Q&As now. There are a bunch of questions that we have collected over the years and asked around a little bit, wondering what people want to know. And then this is the part one of this group that we're going to be doing in the upcoming days, years, and hopefully furthermore. So the first one, let's start. What is the biggest misconception people have about luxury fashion? Well, if a brand is well known and also if it's expensive, it's good. No, that's not. This is such a false conception. But that doesn't mean that something well known and expensive is not good. It can be good, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's good. You have to look at the quality of the item you're buying, or you have to look whether if it is a really design or not. And these are the important details that, for me, what makes luxury luxury. Okay, question 2. What is something people would be shocked to know about running a fashion brand? Everything. Literally everything. I mean, I know we look very glamorous and everything, like, you know, all these people running around, and especially when you have the fashion shows, you know, the models are running around, you're running around. It is not like that. It's mostly crying, budgeting, and then crying some more, and then a lot of needle holes, more than you would expect, and then a lot of discussions, and again a lot of budgeting. So it's not as glamorous as you would think, but obviously there's a lot of beautiful moments that come with it too. Okay, what is one thing about the fashion industry that now nobody talks about? How expensive it is. Like, we really do not talk how expensive it is. And like, people think that just because you can make something and then you're putting it out there, you know, so why is it such special? Or how do I explain this the best way? How expensive it is. Like, making a fashion brand is not just about what you design. It's also about how you present it, how much press knows about it. So there's a lot of other elements that go into a fashion industry, like fashion brand, that people, like, every step you take is an expense that people don't think or talk about. Okay, ready for the next set? Burada bir nefes alıyorum. Sıkıntı olmadığını varsayıyorum. Burayı kesebiliriz. Kağıdımı değiştiriyorum çünkü.
Peki bu başka bir video mu olacak?
Hayır, bu bir video. Şu anda hala aynı videonun içindeyiz. Evet, aynı videonun içindeyiz.
Bitirdiğim zaman yani bitirdikten sonra kameraya böyle dediğim gibi yani 2-3 saniye baktım, mutlaka şey olsun, ben de orada
okay. Soru aralarında da onu yapmaya çalışıyorum ama ne kadar yapıyorum bilmiyorum. Next question. Okay, more personal questions now. What was your childhood like growing up in Istanbul? Well, see, this question needs to be answered depending on where you're asking it from. If you're asking from USA, think about the kids in 1970s and then take it and make it to Istanbul in 1980s. That would be my childhood. But other than that, I was a pretty lucky child. I really enjoyed the best times of Istanbul. And also we had summer houses and then, you know, other things. Like, I had a blast. I had my grandmother who used to tailor. I had my mom's best friend who used to spend a lot of time with me doing things. And, you know, my grandfather was a vet, which I found it fun because I loved animals. So I got to experience everything a child could possibly experience. Did things with my hands, really muddied myself up, and in general, despite all the negative things, it was a pretty good childhood. I was a very lucky child, I have to say, especially compared to some now. Okay, next question. What made you decide to move to London? Okay, this is a fun question. So there are several things that made us decide to move to London. One of them is I was making hats in Turkey, and seriously, it's not that easy to sell hats in Turkey, considering not many people wear it. We have a Christian and Jewish community there who like to wear hats, and then a few brides that kind of likes it. Well, we don't have a horse race culture, or hats are not something integrated into our lives in daily or occasional basis. So it was kind of difficult, though I had some privileges of that, like doing the runways and working with all the designers. Those were all the privileges of being the only milliner in Turkey. But when you want to expand to the rest of the world, you wanna come to a more international fashion point, and London was obviously this. And I was already coming and going due to work. But was this the only factor? Definitely not. There was a bunch of personal reasons, personal and political reasons why we decided to move to London, which I will leave it to another time. That question, if that question comes in more detail. That will be it for this question, people. Okay. What 3 words would you use to describe your personality? My personality, it is unstable. You can never know what's gonna come next. I can be the happiest person on earth and the funniest person on earth, and you probably will mostly get this. But then I can be also the angriest person on earth, and I can also be the saddest person on earth. However, I do try really hard to make sure that people do not get to see my angry or sad parts too much. It's usually my mom who deals with that, and then the rest of the world gets the best of me. Alright, what is something people would be surprised to learn about you? Okay, I am really scared of spiders. Like, it's not even funny. It's just I am so scared of them. Even if I see a piece of thread that looks like a spider, I will run to the other side of the room screaming. And I don't hide it, but I don't think many people know this about me. I'm not sure, because I love animals. Like, I'm not even scared of snakes or rats. I don't get disgusted by anything. I'm perfectly fine. It's just the spiders, man. They have too many eyes and way too much fur for that little body. It's just, there's something wrong with them. I'm sorry. And they might actually eat us one day, even though if you don't believe it. And the other thing is, I actually do believe in zombies, that will happen. Zombie apocalypse is eventually gonna happen, and hopefully I'll be wearing the most stylish hats while this is happening. Okay. And then, what does a typical day in your life look like? Well, I wake up like everyone else. I do clean my face up like everyone else. I try to exercise like Minnie does. And then I spend the rest of my day freaking out about what my next collection would be, or what's wrong with the internet, or how can I possibly fix a hat, or how can I make my client happy. And then when the day ends, like most people, I do have my dinner. Like most people, I go in front of the TV. And like most people, I go to bed. Most people at their 45 go to bed as early as possible and hopefully fall asleep before 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. That would be my typical day. Okay, I'm screwing this up a little bit. Well, yeah. Okay. Are you more creative during the day or late at night? So, when I'm making things, I actually like it to be quiet and not to be disturbed. I actually hate talking to people unless I need to ask, and that will be the only person I would ask would be my mom, because I don't trust anybody else's opinion other than my mom. But I like to work and create in quiet, and one of the biggest things I do is, so when you have a design in your head and you're thinking about it, but I can't usually figure it out when I'm awake. So the best thing I can do is if I can manage, go to sleep and sleep. Usually, if there's a new design I'm working on and don't know how to make it, it takes me a few days of sleep to figure it out. And once one morning I'll just wake up and like, oh, I know how to do this. And then the next 2 days, me making the hat. But basically, awake or sleeping, nighttime would be the right place to say it. Yeah. Okay. What motivates you on days when you feel tired and or uninspired? Well, my mom. I wouldn't say she motivates me. As a child from 80s, our parents basically tell us not to be not motivated, and that's what my mom does. Therefore, I am never not motivated. Sometimes disappointed, sometimes sad, and sometimes unhopeful, but never not motivated. That's not an option. When you want big things, you cannot have the privilege of having an unmotivated day. You have to figure out a way to motivate yourself. Okay. What made you decide to become a milliner instead of another type of designer? I never wanted to be a designer, period. No. So I was actually designing clothes and shoes and bags because everything fashion is fun. I did not study this. We did it as a business in Turkey with my mom, with a brand, etc. And then we did a runway for this brand as an introduction, and I made hat-alike things in that runway. And for some reason, press got into it. I did not, they did. And I got invited to the only horse race in Turkey. And I happened to wear a hat of my making and a dress of my making and blue contact lenses. Apparently blue contact lenses and black hair on topped with a hat turns you into a possible horse owner. So during the race, everybody took pictures of me, assuming I was a horse owner. The reality, I was an idiot who was trying to understand the whole thing because we were there whole day, and every hour there's a horse race that takes about like 6-7 seconds to finish, and I really could not catch up with what was happening. Anyways, people are taking the pictures. They're assuming that I'm this horse owner paying serious attention to the horses. At the end of the day, they learn that I am a designer. I do not call myself a hat designer. Nobody introduces me as a hat designer, but every newspaper decided to introduce me to the rest of Turkey as the hat designer. And by the end of that day, I said, well, that is that. I am a hat designer, so let's make hats. And this is actually a factual, real story, not a made-up thing. Okay, how did Merve Bayindir brand begin? So right after what we just answered, my mom decided to let me be me. And she said, let's see what you're gonna do. I am leaving you now. Let's see if you can do this by yourself. And I couldn't. I obviously couldn't, but I did bear for a year. I created the logo. This is one thing I have to say. I really didn't want to use my own name. I don't like sharing things, like personal things, and my name was a personal thing, but apparently when you become a designer, sort of your name is your brand, and everybody insisted that I should. I ended up using my name. We created the brand. We started working with PR. I was doing hats, but I wasn't really doing a collection. And within, I think, 7-8 months, I started to get recognized, and we did create a collection with my mom. I actually went and said, I need help. I can't do this by myself anymore. So she came. We made the first collection all together. We presented it through our PR. People came, see, and then, yeah, and this person wanted to buy a hat, and our shop was not in the central Istanbul, and they complained. So my mom took me to higher shop next day, and that's how the brand really started up, the summary of the first year of the brand. What was the first hat that you ever sold, and do you remember who bought it? Funny enough, I remember every hat I sold, and I remember every person I sold a hat. The only thing is, you have to show me the hat so I can tell you whether I sold you this hat or whom I sold the hat to or which event. But I remember my first couture client, and I remember how freaked out I was because they asked for a style that I never did before, but I have a policy of not saying no ever. So she asked for a specific circular Fascinator piece from me, and then she brought a crepe Bordeaux fabric, very limited. I did screw up in my first try. Within 24 hours, I made another one, again within that limited fabric, which we used till the very last tiny bit of the fabric. But I succeeded, and she looked gorgeous. It was a wedding, and she was the sister of the groom. That's all you're getting. What moment made you feel like your brand had truly arrived? When I received my order from Net-a-Porter, when I realized the number of hats they asked for, I actually sat and cried for half an hour. That was from half happiness and half freaking out. But I think that was the moment I knew the brand made it. How did studying psychology influence the way you run your business? Well, I think I know listening a little better because of my background. I mean, it's very easy to get offended through the comments, not just your clients, but your buyers, the press, and everyone else. I do believe, however, it can be very good when people actually say negative things if you can put it in the right context. They might not necessarily be saying it the right way exactly, or I don't know. I take the time to analyze what they say, and I try to listen to what they're trying to say. Also, I think I have somewhat of a calming effect on my clients, at least that's what I heard. So I think it's mostly my communication and being able to hear, and I think hearing is the way we succeed in our business. So yeah, hearing is important. What role does your mother, my mom, in your creative process play? Well. Everything you see goes through my mom's approval. Without her saying, yeah, that looks good, there's no way I'm showing it to anyone. This is the first thing. Second of all, I think questionnaire my mom before deciding anything because it freaks me out a lot because she has a very visual understanding, and I can't always see what looks better or not, and then she can always see that. And then even though she says no, she does design half of the hats, even though we don't talk about it much because I like to get the entire credit. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.